Although it is not of our direct interest, asynchronous transfer mode, also known as ATM networks, are independent networks similar to the TCP/IP networks, which define the application layer, the network layer, and the lower layers. Although ATM is not being widely used these days, it still forms the underlying architecture for many networks that are based on TCP/IP. So in a way, it is legacy, and in a way, it is still being used. For that, we must consider it from the congestion management point of view, because after all, it handles congestion in a unique way as compared to the TCP networks. In this module, we shall look at one of the service classes of ATM, also called the available bitrate, and how congestion is managed in ABR service providing networks. We'll look at the operation, and then we'll conclude with combat strategies. The reference is again going to be Quiroz and Ross because it covers ATM on need-come basis only. Available bitrate is a service that is used and offered in ATM networks. Here, the source and destination are not synchronized with each other, and there are no guarantees for providing bounded delay or bounded loss. But the beauty of available bitrate is that it dynamically allocates and deallocates resources to the ATM end users and makes sure that the resources of the ATM network are effectively utilized for the contesting users. So how does available bitrate work? It's an elastic service. It means it is kind of best effort service as we know in TCP/IP networks. If the sender realizes that its path is underloaded, it can exploit and reap from the available bandwidth. But if the sender feels that the path it is using gets congested, it can throttle down its rate to minimum acceptable end user license, or we also call it the service level agreement. Let's look at it from illustrative point of view. Here we have a source and a destination and two intermediate switches. You see two kinds of ATM cells. The ones shown in white are data cells, and the ones shown in red are the resource management cells. These two cells intersperse each other, where we see a lot of data cells and it's interleaved with some of the resource management cells. The resource management cells convey the network state either from the source to the intermediate switch, or from one intermediate switch to the other intermediate switch, or from one of the intermediate switches to the destination. As we earlier said, unlike transport layer TCP, ATM networks provide congestion control using network assisted services. By using the resource management cells, specific fields are included there, or the data cells which include certain flags. 2 bytes of explicit rate field are incorporated in resource management cells. If a switch experiences congestion, it lowers the rate that it wants to lower down at and forwards the resource management cell. Consequently, when these resource management cells traverse the loop between sender and receiver, the sender send rate is throttled down to the acceptable rate of the intermediate switch. Likewise, explicit forward congestion indication bit is included in data cells. If it is set to 1, it means the switch is experiencing congestion. If the data cells which precede the resource management cells have explicit forward congestion indication set, the sender sets congestion indication bit in returned resource management cells. So the data cells as well as the resource management cells work together to combat congestion by conveying information between the sender and the receiver and the intermediate switches.